Hello, my most amazing artists. Welcome to another Art with me, Miss Taub. This week, we're still talking about the element of art, color. And I wanted to introduce you to something called a color family. So, if you have your color wheel at home, get it out because I want you to notice where these colors are on the color wheel. The first color family that we're going to talk about is a color family that you should all know by now. They are the most important colors on the color wheel because they make every other color. They are the primary colors. You'll notice here that yellow skips a spot, and then there's red, skips a spot, and then there's blue, and you skip a spot, just like in this picture here. The second color family I'm going to introduce you to, you should already know as well. It's what we get when we mix the primary colors together. That's right, the secondary colors. The secondary colors are a color family too. We've got green, skips a space, orange, skips a space, and purple, skips a space. They kind of look like pinwheels. Now, that is their relation on the color wheel, but there are other color families too. They just look a little bit different. Here's our color wheel. If we were to split our color wheel down the middle, and I know it's kind of sideways middle, but if we were to split it down the middle, the colors on this side, they have a name. They are called the warm colors. And the warm colors are called the warm colors because they remind us of fire or lava, the sun, and the desert. Think of when you're thinking of the warm colors, you can always remember, oh yeah, the sun. So yellow must be a warm color. You would also put pink in with the warm colors because pink is similar to red. It's actually called a tint, and that means we have to add white to make it light. So pink is actually a light version of red. Pretty cool. On the other side of our color wheel, we have green, blue, and purple. They are also a color family, and they are called the cool colors. Notice they're all next to each other on the color wheel, and they're called the cool colors because they remind us of the ocean, trees, and mountains. So when you're thinking, what's something cool, you can always remember that the water is cool or the grass is cool. So that would help you remember the cool color family. One more color family I have to mention. You might notice this color wheel, it's missing a couple colors. Like, what about black and white and brown and tan? Those are called neutral colors. Neutral colors aren't super bright. They're what's called muted, and they remind us a lot of nature, like sandcastles or a bunny rabbit or a tree without its leaves. Now that we've talked a little bit about color families, we're going to be using color families to create art inspired by an artist. This artist's name is Chris Uphues. Chris Uphues is a contemporary artist and street artist. He's also a designer, and he lives in New York City and Brooklyn. Chris Uphues is a contemporary artist. A contemporary artist is an artist who's still alive and creating art right now. Let's take a look at some of his street art, and I like to call it happy heart art. He is a street artist, which means you can see his art from the street. Now, you might be thinking, Miss Taub, isn't that illegal? Well, it can be illegal if you're not allowed to do it. And this artist actually got permission from this building to create what's called a mural. A mural is any artwork that you see on the wall of a building. So this mural of these happy hearts was made by Chris Uphues, and he was totally allowed to do it. Sometimes people who own stores want to put art on their walls, so they'll ask an artist to do it. And this is an example of that. This is an installation. That means he put his artwork in this storefront so that people walking by could see. Loft is a clothing store, and when he did this in the city, the store actually paid him as an artist to create his happy hearts at the front. It makes me want to go inside. Take a look at all the silly faces that you see. Speaking of silly faces, take a look at Chris's silly faces on all of these hearts. He does something called overlapping. Overlapping means it looks like they're some of these hearts are closer than others because they are covering up parts of the heart. And we're going to be creating our happy heart art too by overlapping our hearts. This one kind of reminds me of a color wheel, but those colors are definitely not in the right order. Anyway, let's get started on making our own happy heart art.
All right, my amazing artists. For this assignment, we're going to be showing the element of art, space. Remember, the elements of art are those ingredients that make up our art, and space shows how far or close things are. And in order to show how far or close things are, we're going to be overlapping our shapes. You're going to want to have a Sharpie or black crayon, pencil, eraser, and your watercolor paints. Remember, to make your paints work, you'll need a paintbrush, water, and a sponge or a paper towel to dry off your brush. All right, my friends, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a nice big heart about the size of your hand, and I'm going to put it off to the side by doing a sideways letter 3 and a V. Awesome heart! Remember, the more you practice your hearts, the better you'll get. So take your time and draw your sideways 3 and your V to connect. Now, to show space, I'm actually going to draw my third heart over top of my first heart. You'll see that the lines crisscross, and we don't want that. So here you're going to decide which heart you want to have closer or in front. And then you're going to erase the line from the heart in back that is inside your top heart. There we go. Now it looks like that third heart is behind my first heart. That's showing how far or close things are. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Oops. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I draw over top, and then I'm going to decide which heart do I want closer. I think I want this one closer, so I'm going to erase the line from the other heart that's inside. There we go. Now, you don't have to overlap all of your hearts, but I do want you to practice overlapping and erasing the lines that make sense in your artwork. So take your time and figure out which hearts you want to have closer and which hearts you want to have farther away. You'll see here, I just do some of my hearts overlapping because it really shows that element of art, space. I think that looks pretty good. I'll add a little mini one down here. Now comes the fun part. Using the reference sheet that I gave you, these are inspired by Chris Uphues characters. We're going to show expressions. Expressions tell us how we feel. So you can choose which mouths you want and which eyes you want, and you'll see here in super speedy fast mode that I made every single heart different because they all have their own personalities. I hope you have fun with this step. Then I traced all of my details using a Sharpie. You could also use a black crayon. And I erased my pencil lines to show clean, crisp lines. Now comes the fun part, adding color. Remember, we talked about color families? So I'm going to get my color wheel critter to use as a reference, and I'm going to decide which color family I want for my hearts and which color family I want for my background. I think I'm going to do the warm colors, red, orange, and yellow for my hearts. So your first step is to wake up your watercolors. They're sleeping. Wake up, yellow! By adding water, you will get that paint nice and woken up so that you can start adding color to your masterpiece. Remember, you're going to have to be pretty patient with these paints. Patient means you're going to have to try over and over again, and also you might have to wait a little bit for them to wake up. You'll notice I didn't really add too much water, but I did make sure that I mixed it around with my paintbrush a lot so that I get enough pigment or paint onto my paper. Yellow is the weakest color. So I wanted to make sure that I had enough yellow hearts before I went back into my red to mix up my orange and to create my red hearts. I didn't want to have a dirty yellow paint, and just in case I wanted to use it again. So remember, to make orange, I have to add red, and I'm adding it right over top of my paper. I'm not mixing it on the paint palette because then it would dirty up my yellow paint, and I want to keep it as neat as possible. Remember, there's only 3 colors in a color family, so make sure you take a look at your color wheel and do the best that you can to create color family happy heart art. For this last one, I'm going to go around my eyes. So for some of them, I was careful to go around the eyes and leave white, and some of them I didn't. It's really up to you. You're the artist after all. Here you'll see in super speedy fast mode that I finished up all of my warm color happy hearts. And after I finished up my warm color happy hearts, I chose another color family, this time the cool colors, to mix up and create my background. For my background, all I did was gently press my brush onto the paper and create confetti. I used green, blue, and purple for my confetti. I cannot wait to see your happy heart art inspired by our artist, Chris Uphues. Have so much fun with this, and I'll see you soon.